From Volkanovski admitting that Max is too big for him, to pros like Uriah Faber firmly backing Holloway against Alexander. Here's why Max Holloway is Alexander Volkanovski's biggest threat. Yeah, this might confuse you since their fight trilogy concluded last year. But come on, this rivalry is far from over, and these two fighters will definitely be seeing each other very soon. And Alexander may have won their last fight, but Max is all set to change that now. Did you forget that he's literally counted among the best featherweights of all time? I mean, even Alex had to agree with this one when he was talking about their third fight. He said that both he and Max were some of the best fighters in the world, and that's exactly what made their bouts so interesting to not just the fans, but the fighters as well. And that's not all. Volkanovski also knew that finishing Max wasn't going to be easy for him, because that man was just too tough. Yeah, his own rival agreed that a stoppage might not be possible when he's up against someone like Max, and he fully accepted that Max winning the fight was very likely. And of course, he did. I mean, with those amazing striking skills, there's no way in hell that Alex can survive that storm. In case y'all forgot, Max is a dream at striking. And that's obvious by the number of records he has in this department too. Like, he's literally the #1 UFC player when it comes to the number of strikes landed. And his record stands at a whopping 3,122 strikes. I know, it's insane. And if these statistics aren't enough to convince you, maybe some real-time experience from this guy's career will. In which case, you have to watch his main win over Jose Aldo, 0 o'clock, in 2017. Like, just look at Max's incredible technique and his boxing too. You'll be able to see his mix of straight shots and pulls that sent his opponent struggling for air. And yeah, you could say that Max's strikes, as effective as they are, could be pretty simple for someone like Alexander, right? But you'd be wrong because our man's got a very complex game here and he's really got it all. You can clearly tell that he knows how to make the most out of his jabs, and he's also got the range control that helps him land those jabs. But above all else, he's always got a strategy, which is something that many aggressive fighters like Alexander himself desperately need. Yeah, Holloway isn't just someone who fights with his hands and legs and goes all in with range. No, this man mainly fights with his mind. And he always makes sure to completely assess his rivals before making any move. After all, there's a reason why he won so easily against people who don't practice MMA, right? Like that win against Qatar, who's literally known as one of the best boxers we've got these days. And yet, in front of Max, he looked like nothing but a speck of dust. I mean, imagining someone beating you at your own game? Now that's what I call real power. And you know how Max got that power? By strategizing. He looked at Qatar's weak points and took advantage of them. Like, for example, he knew that his rival loves to shell up before actually landing strikes. And what did Holloway do? He made sure that Qatar never got the chance to break his shell. Yeah, he kept punishing it and didn't let him rest for even 1 second. And so, Qatar never got a chance to really strike back. And whenever he did manage to find a window, Max was always there, waiting to hit him harder with a combination of angles that'd confuse his rival. And it worked like a charm. I mean, didn't you see the look of discomfort on Qatar's face? There wasn't one moment of peace there, and he really had to grapple with the reality of facing someone so much better than him. And that's exactly what Alexander will have to do too. If not because of the striking, then maybe because of Holloway's mind-blowing kicks. Because our guy's got all the plus points here, and he knows how to use every technique to his advantage. Yeah, you can say that Holloway loves to stick to one style of kicks, especially given how he's mostly been using roundhouse kicks these days. But he always knows how to use them perfectly. So really, why are you even complaining? With these kicks, Holloway easily forces his opponent to move backward before he chops at their leg. And while he's at it, he also remembers to hit his opponents with some major kicks to their bodies, which crush them to the point of no return. But wait, coming back to the one-style argument, that isn't really true either. Because have you forgotten about his spinning back kick? With this one, Max is always waiting till his opponent is completely backed into the fence. And once he knows that he's got him cornered, he strikes. And this would especially come in handy against someone like Volkanovski, who's 34 right now, and clearly getting old and rusty. There's a very high chance that he'd be out of breath in this fight. And when he does take a break for even 2 seconds, his younger opponent, Holloway, will attack him all the way to the ground. And if these kicks aren't enough to convince you, maybe you'd like to take a look at Max's amazing wrestling skills that he showed in his fight against Anthony Pettis in 2021. I mean, this guy is a wrestling god, so he's really got it all. After all, they don't just call him blessed for nothing. He's actually blessed with everything that makes a fighter complete. And we saw that completeness when Holloway easily slid his leg behind Pettis and backed him over it, sending his opponent falling to the canvas. And from there, it was only a matter of minutes before Max took the win home. And sure, y'all can say that Alexander has pretty good wrestling skills as well. And he's definitely much better than Anthony here. So this comparison wouldn't even be fair. And you're not wrong. Volkanovski is also one of the best wrestlers in the MMA world, and he could take anyone down too, but not Holloway. Because Max is just as good at defending himself from takedowns as he is at causing them himself. Like, we all know that he's rarely spent any time on his back, and we've literally seen that in his previous fights against Volkanovski too. Whenever Alexander would push his feisty opponent to the ground, Max would jump back up in no time, ready to show everyone who the real boss was. And as good as Volkanovski is, Holloway's defense is on a whole other level. He always knows how to keep his distance and maneuver his feet. Like this one always has his feet under him. So fighters like Alex won't often find him out of his position, which makes it incredibly hard for them to strike him down. And it's not just me saying that. MMA pros like Brandon Royval and Cody Stamann have always backed Holloway. And it's not like they're friends with Max, right? So they must have a good reason to support him here. And Brandon, for one, even predicted that Max was going to win against Alex in their previous bouts. As for Cody, he was even more confident, saying that Holloway would win against Volkanovski every single time they fight, whether it's this year or the next. And that's because Cody has closely seen Holloway fight and how easy he makes it all look. Of course, Alexander has no chance against him anymore, and Stamann and Royval aren't the only ones. Other pros like Davey Grant, Neil Magny, and Daniel Rodriguez are also firmly in Holloway's corner. And sure, Grant knows that Volkanovski is one of the best champions that the UFC has. But he's also seen Holloway hitting hard in massive fights. He even said that Max could have easily won in the first two fights against Alex, and with the training that he'd been putting in more recently, any future fights against him will definitely be an automatic win. Magny's got the same thoughts, and he talked about how he's seen Holloway chasing wins for a long time now. It's about time he gets his well-deserved win against Alex too. And he may have lost the previous fights, but as Rodriguez says, he's also been training much harder now. Yeah, Rodriguez believes that Max has been polishing his game ever since the trilogy concluded, and he's definitely worked on what he was lacking back then. So he'd be fully betting on him in a fight against Alexander. And Urijah Faber, former bantamweight and featherweight fighter, also has the same views. Like all these pros, Urijah has also always supported Max in all his outings against Volk, and he knows how impressive he's gotten lately. So, from Volkanovski himself admitting that Max is too big for him, to pros like Urijah Faber firmly backing Holloway against Alexander. This was why Max Holloway is Alexander Volkanovski's biggest threat.